Hello, everyone, and welcome to the discussion over the 2023 F1 liveries. We are going to be doing a countdown of the worst liveries to the best for this year. We're going to be having perhaps some controversial takes, some hot takes on these lists, but mainly we're just going to have our own opinions shown. But before we go into all that, I wanted to sort of try and explain to the non F1 fan audience why the livery season, which is this month and has just finished yesterday, why it's so special. What is it about it? I mean, to the untrained eye, it's just 10 companies revealing their company cars and what they look like, right? What's so special about that? It's just a load of colours. What's so special about that? Well, there's two things that makes it quite special. Part of it is just down to the fact of we don't know what they're going to look like until they reveal the car, because everything changes, everything is different. But mostly, and the best way I can sort of explain it to a non F1 audience is by way of perhaps describing it in a way metaphor that might make it a bit simpler for you. Let's use an example. Let's say you're at a concert, or let's say you were watching a film, right? Now, whether it's the concert and the area, the arena, all of a sudden going dark, or whether it's in terms of the film, the sort of like the opening credits showing you who made the film, sort of thing, building up the anticipation for the show, the real event that you're here to see. You know the feeling when you're in that audience and you get this ooh, or the gasp of like it's happening, people, it's happening. That event in F1 is this. The F1 liveries. When the first team starts revealing the livery, we know we're not that far away. We are now, to give you a bit of context, we are now 2 weeks away from the first bit of testing and less than a month away from the first race. That is when it starts to build up. The hype builds up. People start looking at the cars. People start looking at the way that the drivers are. They start seeing the new lineup, seeing how everyone is acting as a team. And it is a really special feeling. If you start getting into Formula One, always February is special. It's doubly funny sometimes because one of the teams did their release on Valentine's Day. Now, as an F1 fan, I was more interested and more hyped for the team's car launch than I was Valentine's Day. Is that because I'm a loner? Maybe, but we'll see. That's just how it is. So now that sort of explains it, we're just going to go straight into the F1 liveries, worst to best. 10 teams, so 10 to 1. Insert this, the sort of the music countdown. You remember the top 10 hits of the songs and everything like that. We're going to jump straight into it. Now, I do also want to mention there is a proviso. What's the word? Caveat, basically, to mention this. The worst to best thing, if I'm being totally honest, there's probably only 2 liveries in this list which are awful. There is actually a lot of these liveries are top tier or really good tier, and it was really hard to try and find out who was sort of like second to seventh. For me, there was a clear winner, but the ones in between, it was very, very close, and they're all very, very nice. So even though we're going to be very early in the countdown, there's still going to be some nice cars, and I'm going to be very complimentary about cars very high up very low down the order. So bear with me. But we are going to start with the worst, and this one for me is really dreadful actually, and that is Alpine. Now you're probably looking at this car and thinking, well, what's wrong with it? I mean, it's pink, it's bright, but it looks all right. And I'll be with you. I'd agree with you. I actually quite like the bright pink, and in a night race, it'd look really good. Unfortunately, this is the car that they're going to be using for the first 3 races only. The actual car they're going to be using for the majority of the season is this one. Now, for me, I like the blue and the pink. I like the pink and the black. Blue and the black works well as well. But all 3 together it just doesn't seem to gel. And I don't know what it is about it. I don't know what it is about this livery that I'm struggling with. I feel like maybe it is literally just because it's messy, because you got the black, then the pink, then the black, then the blue, and then it just like doesn't seem to gel. The pink on the wheel covers again doesn't quite seem to gel. It feels like a bit of a mishmash, almost like this sort of thing of perhaps they designed the blue and the black, and the pink sponsor came in, the BWT water sponsor, said, "Don't forget about us." Oh crap! Yeah, we forgot about them. Let's stick some pink on it, or even in terms of, this is a bit overweight. Let's strip some paint away. And by the way, this could be quite a recurring theme in this video. Is this black? These cars haven't been painted black. The black areas are actually paint stripped away. This is naked carbon fiber we're talking about here. This is teams purposely making their cars lighter. And so this black feature, it feels, it's not an afterthought, but it feels like an afterthought. Like these teams are purposely taking away this paint to make their cars lighter, but it feels like an afterthought, and it feels like it's just making it a mess. But Alpine, there's just too much going on. I mean, look at the colours that we have on this car, as well as the blue, black, and pink. You've also got a bit of white and a bit of green and a bit of red. You've even got some yellow and one other colour as well. I missed out. But you've got all of this going on, and I'm getting a headache looking at it. It's the honest truth. So ever so sorry, Alpine. Out of 5 stars, I probably would give you 2. In fact, no, let's be kind, 2.5, because that pink one, the full-on pink one, looks all right. Looks all right. How about number 9? Number 9 is AlphaTauri. Now, this one, last year, AlphaTauri made one of the best looking cars. So you see this sort of the navy and whites sort of like bull livery. Imagine that with the nose blue navy as well. It was a sexy looking car. It looks right. Okay. Now them making the nose white perhaps might make it look nice or not make it look nice. I think that's debatable. But for me, it's the red. It's the red on this that makes it look awful. Now, it looks almost like a last minute decision. Very much like the naked carbon fiber we were talking about for Alpine. It's not. This Orlen is one of their title sponsors, right? And it doesn't quite feel right. Now, don't get me wrong. A red car looks really good. A navy blue car looks really good. A white car looks really, really nice. But all 3 together don't. The way I can sort of describe it is, when you were a kid and you thought you knew fashion by literally just sticking bits that were cool together, and then you found out that they definitely didn't work together. and you just ended up with this horrifying mess of fashion. That feels like what is happening here. The Italian colours, yeah, it looks great on their own. Doesn't look, it just looks like an addition. The red looks great on its own, but it's just a mash of colours, and it's messy, is the honest answer. It is messy. Really, really messy. How about number 8? This is where we start going into the cars that look alright. Now, number 8 is Red Bull. Now, I think it was Friday or Saturday last week, in a live stream. By the way, those of you who watch on YouTube, the Neurodivergent Ninja on Twitch as well, go and follow. And also, obviously, subscribe and follow on YouTube as well, please. I was defending Red Bull because it's actually quite hard for imagining them being able to do a Formula One car in terms of the looks of it, right? It can. It's very easy to pass it off that Red Bull are being lazy. This looks very, very similar to last year's Red Bull in terms of the looks. Take away the red stripe in the middle, and you've literally got last year's car, right? And I was defending them because I was like, well, it's actually they haven't got as much to play with. If I was to show you a green Formula One car from whatever era, if it was just green, no sponsors on it whatsoever, you'd probably go, that's an Aston Martin, or that's a Lotus, or that's a Jaguar. Or if I showed you a yellow car, you'd go, that's Renault, or that's Jordan. Or red, that's Alfa Romeo, that's Ferrari. The colour is part of the branding. Silver, Mercedes, we'll get onto that. But it's part of the branding. But for Red Bull to make a car that is clearly a Red Bull car, they have to have the Red Bull logo. They have to have elements of the Red Bull, the sun, as in the yellow sun that's in the middle of it. Maybe even the words Red Bull. They have to make it absolutely clear, because if they just showed a navy car, people would think it was like a Williams, right? It's actually quite difficult. And that was the defense I put up. But then someone showed me a design that sort of no, it definitely changed my mind. This was a design shown. Now it's got Shiraya Naya as the designer, and if you design it, by the way, it looks gorgeous, right? That looks so clean. I love the fact that the Red Bull is on the side, the red wings, the red tips. This would be a top tier car. And what makes this frustrating is Red Bull announced in their sort of release show that they were going to let fans design three of the liveries for three of the cars this year. And what's funny is, if they'd have let a fan design their livery for the entire year, we would have a gorgeous car. Now, I don't know why Red Bull can't do it. Maybe there's no room in the budget for design. Given their exploits last year, that would be understandable. But because they can't afford catering either. But this is someone who just loves Formula One and decided to just do a design and what works. And I love it. The white sponsors pop at you. That literally, this feels like the perfect car. But it's not Red Bull's car. This is just a concept. This has just been made by a fan. So Red Bull, I think you could save money on a car designer and get a better looking car. Get a fan. Get a fan who loves the team too much. Yeah, nice stuff. You'll be at number 1 next year. Now, number 7. We're starting to get into the liveries that actually look really, really good. And number 7 is McLaren. Now, I adore the papaya blue and black. I do adore it. I also absolutely adore the fact that they've used Google's sponsorship on their wheels. I find it looks quite funky, having the red, blue, green, and yellow on the wheels looks really, really funky. But again, we're going to start going back into the integration of black in the car. It looks a bit too blocky for me. Just a tiny bit too blocky. Like there's not enough orange. It feels like it's more of a black car than an orange car, which is fine, except for the fact that this is McLaren. It's meant to be orange, right? And also, the sponsors appear too big, too many. I mean, look at that OKX on the rear wing. It's huge. The chrome looks a bit messy on the front wing and on the air ducts, right? There's too much going on, and I'm also a little bit yet to be sold on what they're doing with the rear suspension, the green and the red. Depending on what day I look at it, depends on whether I like it or not. And at the moment, I don't quite like it, but each of their own, I guess. Yeah, but still, decent effort, decent looks. It's orange and black. It still works. I like it. It looks all right. About number 6. Now we're starting to get into the cars actually I really like. Every single car in the top 6 I absolutely freaking adore. And I mean that. I really do mean that. Right? So, Haas. Now, this, I love it just for its simplicity. Haas have got the, red and white. They're adding on the black. And the way that they've done it, this sort of like, I'm almost going to call it a fork design that they've done from the white to the black. The red wings, the solid red wings. It looks simple. Do you know what it actually reminds me of? And this might be a very unpopular opinion. In fact, it probably is an unpopular opinion. It reminds me in its design, its simplicity and lack of sponsors of the Brawn GP car from 2009. And I adored that one for its simplicity. There's some nice stuff going on. There's not a lot of sponsors. I mean, I think Haas is on there more times than any other than most of the sponsors. It looks simple. It looks elegant. It almost reminds me of an old school Formula One car where all that mattered to you was the team branding. And they've got a cheap sponsor in MoneyGram. Does have a comedy thing where the front wing, part of the front wing, looks like it is also a BBC TV show. But I'm going to give them that one because like it looks all right. I like it. I very much like the Haas and looking forward to seeing that one in the flesh. It was the first one released as well, which gets it bonus points because everyone had the hype just from the Haas. So great work there, Haas. Now, number 5 is Williams. Now, Williams, I very much liked this car. I adore this car. In fact, I was very tempted to put this in the top 3. The blue, the blue and the black seem to work really well. We mentioned about that on the Alpine one that blue and black alone work really well. I find it quite funny that they're having a little bit of a joke in terms of their Duracell sponsor. They've made the airbox look like a battery. I love that. That is like real sort of like tongue-in-cheek humor. How are we going to show Duracell as a brand? Oh yeah, let's put a battery on our car. So good, so funny. I love it. I love it. But what it knocks it down 2 levels is the fact that I found out They used his livery in 2 races last year. Williams, that's cheating. That is cheating. You're getting penalty points for that. So down 2 places, grid drop basically, 5th. Although considering it's Williams, they probably wouldn't be too ashamed of that, to be quite honest. But it looks all right, doesn't it? It looks all right. Number 4, Ferrari. Now, I love the Ferrari. And again, this one was very close to being top 3. Got a little bit of penalty, which would definitely be a hot take. This was almost a perfect car, right? The one thing that made it less than perfect is where the black is. I could sort of accept it underneath the nose of the car, but where that Sevo company is, the black there, looks a bit jaggedy. I don't know. It doesn't seem to work that well. Even more black would have been nice, but it's a Ferrari. You can't go too far wrong, and they haven't gone too far wrong, but they have still gone wrong. Where this penalty comes into play, and some people are going to call me petty for this, there is a sponsor on that car that I have personal struggles with. Now, they've done nothing wrong. They've done nothing wrong. Let me give you a sort of example of like what sort of pettiness this is, or how it's not this company's fault or this sponsor's fault or Ferrari's fault or anything like that. Imagine that you were in a car accident, really bad car accident, and the car that crashed into you was a Hummer. And because of that, you don't like Hummers. Right? Now, that's not Hummer's fault. You just dealt with a dipstick individual. But you don't like Hummer. But it's not Hummer's fault. Same way I have it with this company. Just a bit of a difficulty that I've had with the company that's not the company's fault, not Ferrari's fault. But because of that, I'm petty and I'm going to give them 2 minus points. So they're in 4th. But it still looks good. We are in some really top tier cars. If we were to sort of rank this one, the Williams, the Haas, we're talking 4 stars out of 5. These are really good looking cars. Now we're into, though, the really difficult territory, because the next 2 cars were both 4.5 stars out of 5. They were so close to being perfect, and I adored them for it. And it was really hard to choose who was going to be 3rd and who was going to be 2nd. So, 3rd, Aston Martin. Now, anyone watching on the YouTube, anyone that wants to make a comment on Twitch on this, I wanted to ask you a question, because is this a British bias thing? I adore the green, the dark green, the British racing green. But it's that term that's making me wonder if it's British bias. Does the dark green work? See, for me, it's a sexy looking car. The dark green, the yellow line, the black, it looks smart. It looks, almost upper class. It looks like it's ready for whatever's going to come its way. It's simple. It's elegant. I'm looking forward to seeing the green flash as it goes past, or trundle as it goes past, because the engine's packed up. I don't know. But is that just a British bias thing that we like the green, or is it a genuine green looks good? Look forward to your comments on that. But I love it. I love it because of its simplicity. And actually, the dark green means that the black doesn't stand out as much. It looks phased. It looks like it's almost part of the design. Very clever, very nice, very gorgeous. Aston Martin, you can smile at yourselves and do yourselves proud that you have made yourself a good looking car. The only thing that I would say is maybe the black infiltrating into the cockpit. maybe could have been improved, but can't go wrong with it too much. Second is Alfa Romeo. Now, the black really works with this. Alfa Romeo, I don't know if anyone knows the story of Alfa Romeo and Ferrari. So Alfa Romeo in Formula One started off as the top tier car, right? And Enzo Ferrari was the chief of sports for Alfa Romeo, right? Now, here's the thing: Alfa Romeo in the 60s, I think it was, thought, "Do you know what? Formula One's not for us." And so they sold the entire team to Ferrari. So in a sense, it's the bigger brother, but also the little brother because they spent less time in Formula One. And it just gives over these vibes of being Ferrari's evil brother. And I feel like they've embraced that. There's some cars where people joke around and they go, "Oh, that's a Batmobile," or anything things like that. A black Jaguar is like almost like that's a Batmobile. This is the Sithmobile. If Darth Vader had a Formula One car, this would be it. It just looks menacing. In fact, I bet if you saw it in your rearview mirrors as a Formula One driver, you'd poop yourself. Because that red and black, imagine that face on. I'd be terrified. I'd be like, "No, let it through, just let it through. Go, 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 go. Leave me alone. I'm scared of you. I'm scared." Right? It looks like it wants to kill you. And I love it for it. I said it's 4.5 stars though. So there is something I would do. And for me, it's the sponsors on the nose cone. The sponsors on the nose cone. There's too many of them. What have you got? You've got right at the tip, Alfa Romeo. Then you got Steak. Then you got Singer. Then you've got something else. Then something else. Then another one. Then Everdone maybe, and then Acceleron, and then Pirelli, and then the driver's number, then AMX and CLO and Curum Tommy. And that's just the ones down the centre. I'm struggling with this. And then you look at the sides, and there's a whole list of sponsors. I mean, how much are these sponsors paying to be on the car? For that part of the car, I wouldn't even pay £5. It's not worth it. Definitely not worth it. And it's just giving me the headache. And it's a shame because it detracts from a very good looking car. The 4-leaf clover that's on the car, which has huge historical significance to Alfa Romeo, it is a gorgeous car. And if they'd have just made less sponsors and maybe bigger sponsors, it would have looked all right. But you ruined it, Alfa. It was so close to perfect and you ruined it. Now, there's one team left. And this team that's about to come up is going to make me sound like an absolute bloody hypocrite. Because you know how I was saying that the black is sort of like invading into the teams and it's making the cars look messy and all that sort of thing. And in a sense, it's giving over the impression I don't like black on cars. Well, this is Mercedes entry. It's a black car. It don't make sense, does it? This is more black than any other colour. So why have I put Mercedes as the number one sexiest looking car? Why have I put them as a number one? It is actually because of the black. The black, the silver, the turquoise works well. Now we're going to get on to the thing about black for this team in a minute. But just look at the sweeping line. Look at that turquoise line as it sweeps in and goes to the rear wing. It looks smooth. It looks stylish. It looks suave. It looks handsome. And I adore it for it. I think as well the numbers on it as well. They pop. those drivers' numbers, you're going to know which driver's got which car. The teammates got green, by the way. So even a quick flash, you'll be able to know which car is for which driver. But now onto the black itself. Now, Mercedes is known as the Silver Arrows, and they had a silver car last year. But in many ways, the black car is more iconic to Mercedes than a silver car. Two ways, actually. The first is down to the story of the Silver Arrows. Now, I don't know if you know about the story of the Silver Arrows. But basically, Mercedes in the 50s were a Formula One team. And they turned up to a Formula One race with a white car. And they found out it was overweight. So they scraped the paint away to reveal the aluminium body on its own, the silver, hence when they became known as the Silver Arrows. That's where everything comes from, right? Now, we live in a different society in today's world. What's the material that's used for cars? Carbon fibre. What's the colour of carbon fibre? Black. And what have Mercedes done here? They have found out that last year's car was overweight when it was silver. They've scraped most of the paint away to reveal the naked colour underneath. This is a truer Mercedes than a silver one. In fact, I don't know what nickname we should call them now, because I thought about calling them the Black Arrows, but it sounds a little bit, I don't know, cheesy. I don't know why. But this is a true Mercedes. But for me, there's an even more important reason as to why I love the black on the Mercedes. We need to rewind the clock back to 2020, the start of 2020. Now, there was a very sad event that happened in 2020, which was the killing of George Floyd. You remember the racial injustice, all that sort of thing. Now, Mercedes at that time, as we know, had Lewis Hamilton in their team, a black Formula One driver. And most teams did like a sort of a together we are one, all this sort of united thing. Felt very corporate. What Mercedes did, whilst they were still a silver car, they approached Lewis Hamilton, or Lewis Hamilton approached them. They had a discussion, in a sense, and when, in a sense, the discussion was, Lewis, how would you like us to represent black history and represent black people? And they came up with this idea of a black car. Now, there was no other reason for it. At that time, they were a dominant team. They could have left it as silver. They chose to paint it black. Bringing it back is a beautiful reminder in this world that there is still a need to work for unity. There's still a need to make sure that you give a voice to those that don't have one, or to those that aren't being listened to. It's important to welcome everyone, regardless of their background, to show kindness to everyone, to be excellent to one another. And I'm so glad Mercedes brought that reminder back. So Mercedes, I mean, I know I'm a fanboy of Mercedes. A lot of people will know that I really want Lewis Hamilton to get that 8th World Championship. And I do. But now more than ever, looking at this car, Mercedes, you've already won, in my mind. Morally, mentally, the looks of the car. And I so hope you have brought the car to start winning races again. because that car deserves to be bringing the driver to the top step of the podium, to the Constructors' World title and the Drivers' World title. Well done, Mercedes. Thank you.